Okay, so I have got the 3 cards that I'm looking to alter, and I did get a fresh palette just because it does make it easier when I am working on a clean surface, because we're going to do some large scale colors on these cards. So one of the things that is similar to making regular paintings versus altering cards is that you want to go ahead and put a surface layer down. Your cards are going to be shiny and covered in kind of like a waxy film. You can sand that off. I don't do that. I just build a layer. It still works for the weight, but you are able to go ahead and do that sanding process if you like. Just make sure you have a fine grain sandpaper and you'll be able to get some of that surface scuffed up so that it'll hold the paint better. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to use my matte colors, my matte white, matte black, and I've been using these guys pretty much all night, so they're primed and ready to go, but you'll want to make sure that you have mixed them up enough in your actual container, because these paints do separate. They are water-based, so they will start to separate from the pigment, and you just want to give them a little shake. I always shake. I'm in so much the habit of it. I was a tattoo artist, so that was another thing that got me in the habit of shaking these bottles. And I think too, in a way, it's a habit of why I like to use these bottles, because I am familiar with using bottles shaped like this for tattooing. So pretty good setup for me. I'm gonna go ahead and just take a regular flat brush here, and I am gonna start to load up some paint. We're gonna mix a gray color. Some people will just base in white. I like gray because a lot of the cards that I work with tend to have a bit of a darker feel to them, and we're gonna go ahead and mask out the text in the entire top of the card. We're just going to go ahead. You can see this brush is pretty nice because it's about the size of that banner on the top. And we're going to completely paint this top part of the card, so you can go to the edge. And one thing you will notice is that as you're painting, you can't layer up too much, because as you make multiple passes on this card, it will pick up the paint that you've already laid down. So we'll let that dry and we'll start painting to the sides. And I like to go a little over. Like, you don't have to be perfect with this, guys. Like, a lot of people don't like to do alters or get worried about it because it's got to be so perfect. And as some of you have seen with my alters, there's no amount of perfection in them. It's just a fact of working through what you have and going over things and bringing them back. I have my Q-tips that I keep on hand for erasure. So if I make a mistake and put too much paint in an area, I'll just grab a Q-tip and remove that. Should probably add that to our supplies for the video, but you can still use just a regular piece of old cloth, or if you want to use paper towel like I've got sitting over here to my right, you can do that. Now I want to make sure that I keep the bottom text legible. Now some people will play with full art cards and they'll just keep the original copy of the card out that's not altered, so that way in that case you can kind of just paint all over it because you've got a reference. But I like to have some of the text available. We're gonna go ahead and we are going to do that card, and I might wind up speeding this up a little bit in the editing process, but I did want to give you some examples of doing multiple cards. So you'll do one layer, let that dry for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can come back and you can add a second layer. So I will do that, but we'll fast forward in the editing for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue this process. Again, you want to make sure you're not getting too thick. I think you guys can see that I'm spreading that paint out fairly thin And I don't care if I get it on this little mat. And the one thing about this paint is you also can go back if you get any paint on the back of this card, you know, by maybe moving it around or something, you can just, again, wet a Q-tip or a piece of a napkin and you can just wipe it off. So that to be said, when you complete your altered cards, you want to keep them in a sleeve because they are susceptible to water spillage, condensation, because this is water-based paint, which is going to be the only type of paint you can use to paint these cards. So make sure that you protect them when they are done. Don't leave them sitting out. If you do for some reason have some liquid that spills on them, blot it dry. Don't wipe. I'll take the paint off. But here we go. Like I said, no need for perfection. We are just going to get this stuff completed. And everyone, I'll be recording this in sections. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video now so that we can the rest of these cards painted up and ready, and we can move on to the next step of the process.